Hello and welcome to the virtual pre-departure orientation hosted by Loyola Study Abroad Office. This virtual orientation is designed for students who are studying abroad summer 2025, fall 2025, or academic year 25-26. First, just want to congratulate you on studying abroad and just share with you how eager and excited we are that you are committed to going abroad this year. My name is Bobby Wilson Jr. and I serve as the Senior Study Abroad Advisor here in the Study Abroad Office. In addition, during this virtual orientation today, the full-time study abroad staff members will also be present. They include Marley Stein, who's the director of study abroad, Alana Carroll, who's a study abroad coordinator, and then Allie Donovan, who is the other study abroad advisor. In terms of what we will be overviewing today with you all, we'll start off today by talking about cultural adaptation and how cultural adaptation intersects with your identities while you're abroad. We'll then be leading a reflection activity to get you thinking a little bit about your program and putting into play some of the concepts that we'll be discussing today. We'll then transition into talking about some study abroad academic information, as well as health, safety, and wellness abroad, and then concluding the day with some overall tips, preparation, and next steps for your program. We do have some goals for this presentation today. We hope by the end you'll be able to recognize what cultural adaptation means and how it intersects with your identities when you're abroad. We hope you understand some academic information specific for study abroad. Some examples of this include the credit and grade conversions, Loyola's pass, no pass policy, also known as the pass-fail policy, course approvals, and much more. And then we want you to understand some of the health and safety resources that are available for you when you are abroad. And then overall, we just want you to feel prepared for your program. We know that your programs are arriving, and we hope that some of this information can help you start imagining what your program might be like. With that, I'm going to hand things over to my colleague, Allie, who will talk to you all about cultural adaptation.
Hi, my name is Allie, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about cultural adaptation in your experiences abroad. By the end of our time together, I hope that you will have a better understanding of how to identify and successfully navigate the multiple phases of cultural adaptation that you will experience abroad. That you'll find examples of cultural adaptation that you've already done here in your lives at LUC, and to provide you with some tips for managing cultural adaptation, aiding in your intercultural competence. So I think you can kind of start out by just thinking to yourself a little bit about what is culture, what that means to you. If you want, feel free to pause the video and just kind of have a think about it for a second. I'm going to share with you the definition of culture that we'll work with in our presentation today. So for our purposes today in our conversation, culture will be defined as a shared pattern of behaviors and interactions, cognitive constructs, and effective understandings that one would learn through a process of socialization. The shared patterns would identify members of a culture group while distinguishing those of another group. This is kind of academic, so let's break it down and talk a little bit more concretely about some things that you might notice. Right now, I've pulled together data from 4 countries: Chile, Germany, South Korea, and the United States. And what we can do is dive a little bit deeper into some of the unique facets of the culture of each place. For example, power distance. Whether the country is one in which hierarchy is very established and respected, or one that's more egalitarian. So if I'm coming from, say, the United States, still ranking, power distance ranking of, say, 40, and I go to Germany, I might not notice a huge difference in that regard. But if I were to go and spend my semester abroad or my time abroad in Chile, I might notice more of a difference in this aspect. I might notice a little bit more respect for hierarchy, differences between people in power and without. We could look not just at power distance, but things like individualism, to what extent a culture might focus more on the individual or on the collective. We could look at something like motivation towards success and achievement. This might be things like considering success to be rising to the top of your field, very competition oriented. We could think about things like uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, indulgence, more of a work hard, play hard culture versus restraint. All of these things will make up the culture of the countries that you're going to. And so they're all worth considering when we think about the overall culture of the place. On our next slide, we are going to talk a little bit about the different aspects that make up culture. In fact, at the beginning of this talk, when you were thinking about what culture means to you, you might have come up with some of these. We can think about culture as being kind of like an iceberg, in that commonly stated idea about icebergs having most of their mass and volume beneath the surface, right? Most of the iceberg we cannot see. Culture can be kind of like that too, at least for the things that we can see on first glance versus that require us to dig a little bit deeper. We can talk about surface culture, things like food, dress, music, television shows, the stuff that you might immediately bring to mind when considering the culture of a different place. But a lot of culture happens sort of beneath the surface. You may not notice it right away. It may take a little bit longer before you really identify what's going on. These could be things like the courtesies that you show to others, body language, the manner in which you would interact with strangers and friends and families, attitude towards elders, even things like concept of the self can differ from culture to culture. A brief experience that I had that really highlighted this for me happened when I was living abroad in the Czech Republic. I was talking to one of my friends there, and she made a comment about the way I walk around and just exist in the world. She said, "Allie, you're always smiling." She said, "You know, when you do this, you seem a little bit," and she paused, and I'm filling in the blanks, thinking, "You seem a little bit nice. You seem a little bit approachable. You seem a little bit friendly." But what she said was, "You seem a little bit insane." To me, this really showed two big cultural differences. First, the differences in the way that one might interact with strangers and just carry oneself out in public, and also differences in communication styles. She had a much more direct communication style than I might have. So it's important to keep these things in mind as you consider the cultural experiences that you'll be having abroad. Because sometimes when we have some expectation set by our own cultural experience that doesn't quite meet the reality of where we are, we can experience a disconnect. And on the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about that disconnect. We refer to these as cultural misunderstandings or bumps. When you are in your host country, you are likely to experience some cultural bumps. This is what happens. This is the term that we use when you expect a certain behavior and you get something different when you're interacting with somebody from another culture. This could be a miscommunication because you both have differing cultural norms. It could be due to language barriers. Many of you are going to be living your lives or conducting your academics in a second language. These experiences can challenge you, but they also provide opportunities for learning, for growth, and for increased understanding of both your culture and the culture in which you find yourself. We like to give the example of driving a car and going over speed bumps. I'm sure some of you who are listening to me right now have gone over a speed bump and have done that a little bit too fast, maybe suffering some consequences. But once you do that, you learn something, right? You learn a little bit better how to navigate those speed bumps in the future. You're better prepared to look out for them and to approach them a bit more slowly and with that understanding. Cultural bumps function similarly, where once you have a few, you're more able to look out for them, to approach situations a little bit cautiously with understanding of their potential effect. This is something that you might have heard referred to, by the way, as culture shock. For our purposes, we tend to refer to it more as a cultural bump, since we think about it more as a bump in the road rather than an enduring shock to the system. Recognition of these cultural bumps can go a long way in aiding toward cultural adaptation. This is what we call it, the overall long-term process of adjusting and feeling comfortable in your new environment. I'd like to give you some examples of how this might play out using a model kind of like a wave. Things might start out in your new culture where you're feeling very positive, very curious, and eagerly anticipating these new exciting experiences. We might think about this as being like the top of the wave, the honeymoon phase. Everything's new, exciting, enchanting, you're thrilled. But as time goes on, you might find yourself starting to feel like these differences are not so much differences, but inferiorities. It's common for people in this stage to feel frustrated or confused. Cultural adaptation occurs out on the other side of that trough, when you feel a bit more relaxed and develop a more balanced and objective view of your experience, with the recognition that these differences aren't necessarily better or worse, but just that, differences. Many of you may have done things like this in your lives already without even realizing it. Some of you listening to me right now have probably moved to Chicago, whether it was for university or, like me, prior to university. Imagine coming to Chicago for the first time and being enchanted by it. Going to Navy Pier, just gazing out at the lake, seeing the bean, having deep dish for the first time, right? Enjoying all the wonderful things that Chicago has to offer. But after some time, you start noticing other things. You start noticing that the traffic can be brutal and that the drivers do not always navigate it well. You might endure some unpleasantness with the weather, or notice that I don't have friends here. And so adaptation and acceptance in a situation like this might involve things like joining local classes or clubs or organizations to develop that support network, buying a winter coat and preparing yourself for the weather that you can't change, sharing culture of the places that you came from in your new context. Having moved here from many other places, I always love this aspect so much, being able to share a meal from some of the other places that I've lived. Adaptation and acceptance is when you're really able to take that good and that bad and notice in the entirety, we have some differences. Moving on, we can talk a little bit about how it doesn't always look like that smooth curve. And that's something else that you should be aware of as you're going into these new cultural environments. A more true to life representation of the ups and downs might be a bit more irregular. Within the honeymoon phase, there might be higher and lower points. Within the periods of frustration, there might be higher and lower points as well. This is not a process that always goes smoothly, and that's important to keep in mind. Another thing that's going to be very important to keep in mind is how your identity is viewed within the lenses of the different cultures in which you find yourself. And so I'd like to turn things over now to Marley Stein, the Director of Study Abroad, to talk a little bit more about navigating identities abroad. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so it's really important to acknowledge what Allie shared with all of you is that different countries have different cultural understandings of various identities. They have different ways of speaking about diversity and inclusion due to their historical, social, political backgrounds. So when you go into a different environment, you'll want to reflect on your own personal identities and understand whether or not you may be a part of a majority or an underrepresented group while abroad, and how navigating a different cultural context or different nationality might impact your own perception of your identity. One example is that a student who might identify as Mexican American in the US might find that others are determining or making assumptions about their identity when studying abroad. They may identify you as Mexican and not Mexican American, or vice versa. So understanding that different cultures have different perspectives regarding how different identities are perceived. Do your research ahead of time to know what to expect related to your own personal identities. One way to stay connected and understand how locals with similar identities might be able to help you navigate your own identity in a different location or country is to join community groups associated with your identities. This is a great way to meet locals who share similar interests and values while also providing you with insights and support. If you encounter any microaggressions, racism, or harassment while abroad, make sure to inform your on-site program staff. They'll be able to help you navigate it with the cultural lens that you need to be successful abroad. And also Loyola Study Abroad you can contact, and we will work with you to support, if needed, you to submit it to the Office of Equity and Compliance via their reporting system for discrimination. If you have any questions or concerns, speak up and know that the Study Abroad Office is here to support you with whatever needs you have. One thing that can be helpful when going into a new environment is talking to a former alumni or a former Loyola student who might have a similar identity to you and have gone to a similar country or region of the world that can help you understand what you might experience there as well. In any new environment, there are going to be moments of happiness, moments of euphoria, exciting moments, and then there's also going to be moments where you are frustrated, struggling, maybe you're very stressed out. And it's important to know that you already have a lot of these skills to rely upon to be successful in a study abroad context. Some of these here are examples of ways you can build resiliency utilizing your own go-to default mechanism for self-support. Some of these include self-awareness, connection, flexible thinking, self-regulation, and optimism. Self-awareness is a very core factor in resilient people. So the more you know yourself, the more you know how you might react in different cultural contexts, or if you do experience a cultural bump or misunderstanding. Connection, feeling alone is a very common feeling when you're abroad, even though you are surrounded by other study abroad students, other international travelers. But finding a support network that you feel comfortable to be your true self in will make branching out and challenging yourself and being more open in a new environment a little bit easier. Flexible thinking, not everything is going to go according to plan. You may have planned to go to a different neighborhood in a particular part of the city or town that you're studying in and have it all mapped out. You looked up the time that the museum is opening, and you find out that actually it's a random holiday you weren't aware of. You walk all the way across the city and it's closed. Knowing that you have to be flexible sometimes, that how you plan things might not turn out how you anticipated, and that there could be many beautiful alternative paths that you take in the moment when something doesn't go according to plan. Self-regulation. a way, knowing how you might de-escalate feelings of stress. So maybe it's journaling when you have a misunderstanding with your homestay parent, or maybe it's going on a run, maintaining routine practices that you typically do at home abroad so that there is some consistency and regularity in your day-to-day activity. And lastly, optimism. Doing your best to try to look on the bright side of every situation. It's a way to promote psychological well-being. It helps you challenge maybe unhelpful thinking, improve mood, and identify what is and isn't within your control. So maybe planning one event or planning one outing with your friends is within your control, but maybe the group cultural excursion you're going on with your professor is not in your control. So understanding what is and isn't in your control. All of you have examples of this in your daily life now, especially having already navigated coming to university for the first time. So please be confident in yourselves and know that you can rely on all of these various forms of building resiliency abroad as well. Moving into health and safety abroad, while we want study abroad to be a fun, a learning, and enriching experience, that can only be possible if you are cognizant of health and safety requirements and needs abroad as well. So first and foremost, alcohol and drug abuse will not be tolerated. Local laws apply, but let's say you are able to drink abroad, consume alcohol abroad because you're of legal age there. You can, however, please do so in moderation and responsibly, and know that you're still subject to Loyola's community standards and code of conduct. If you abuse alcohol, that is a violation of the community standards and code of conduct. Please note that alcohol use, although if it is legal in that particular country that you're studying, it should not be consumed during program time or in program housing. This is in alignment with almost all of the affiliate or exchange programs or faculty-led programs that you will be going on. And please know that drug use is not permitted and is illegal in most locations that you would be studying in, and local laws apply if you are going to break laws related to drug or alcohol abuse. The majority of illnesses and injuries are caused by alcohol-related use. So if you do engage in drug use or drug possession, it is potentially grounds for immediate expulsion. This is also congruent with many of the rules for your affiliate and exchange programs and your faculty-led programs. Breaking laws abroad can carry much more severe punishment. This means that if you break a law that is not a law set by Loyola or by the U.S., you are subject to the sanctions that are put in place by that particular country. There is little we can do to support you if you break a local law. The alcohol and drugs can impair judgment, so especially in new, unfamiliar environments. If you're not familiar with navigating a city or a town at dark or by yourself, please be responsible when consuming alcohol if of legal drinking age. And use good judgment if consuming alcohol. Only do so in a space where you're safe, you know your surroundings, and you are with peers who can look out for you. If you do observe alcohol abuse by other program participants, please speak up. You all are a community of study abroad students, of Loyola students abroad. If you are seeing a student struggling emotionally or mentally, please let them know that you will be sharing so with your on-site staff or with the study abroad office so that we can step in and provide the necessary support for that student to be successful in their study abroad term. You can also file a care report with Loyola with the Dean of Students as well. There are instructions on how to file a care report as well as an Office of Equity and Compliance report in your Go Global portal in the post-acceptance learning content. If alcohol is, sorry, go back. If alcohol is present, look out for each other. That means that if you all go to a bar together, you make sure that the 5 students who went to that bar come back to the bar. Never walk alone when consuming alcohol. All right, so before you go, there's some research and meetings that you should have before to make sure you're prepared as possible. Visit your physician. This can be a local physician. This can be the wellness center here on campus. It can be a travel clinic. When you visit your physician, it's important that you know what you want to discuss. Please plan to discuss any important health accommodations that you might need abroad and how you will manage those abroad. This includes mental health, any medical conditions, allergies, that you might encounter or need additional support while abroad. Please discuss prescriptions and ensure you have enough to sustain you. Yes, in some countries, you can get additional prescriptions if needed, if you run out, but it is much more difficult. So the best course of action is to bring a full supply of the prescription you need for the full duration of the program abroad. If you do ultimately need additional prescriptions in country, you can work with our CISI insurance provider to find the best physician in country that could support you in getting a new prescription or help you send it over to the destination from the US that you are. Some medications will require you to travel with a doctor's prescription or a letter from a physician. I would say for every single medication, just make sure you have it to be safe. And then it is true that in some countries, certain certain medications are considered controlled substances, and you might not be able to bring those with you abroad without the necessary documentation, and you might not be able to get those in country. If you want to know what those regulations are by country, by medication type, you'll want to consult the CDC website, travel.state.gov. They have a particular page that talks about vaccinations and prescriptions. That's where you'll also find which immunizations you will need for your term abroad. These are a list of travel and immunization clinics across the Chicagoland area. If you do not need an immunization because you're not traveling to a country that needs that, you do not need to see a travel clinic or an immunization clinic. You can just see your regular physician or consult the wellness center for any physical or mental health needs. All right. So as you prepare, do your research, review pre-departure materials, both from the study abroad office here at Loyola, but more importantly, from your affiliate or exchange partner, because they're going to have resources that are country specific that it's important to be familiar with. Stay updated on any sort of infectious diseases or how a particular country regulates COVID-19 conditions or flu, etc. Learn about medications that may be restricted or illegal, research the socio-political climate and other safety matters. This comes back to having a stronger cultural understanding of where you're going so that you can move through spaces with a strong understanding of how to keep yourself safe and discuss important global issues with your new acquaintances and peers. Some resources to do research is the U.S. Department of State, travel.state.gov. That's where you'll find travel advisories 1 through 4. Nobody is going to a level 4 country, but some of you may be studying in a level 3 country, and they'll give you specific guidelines on how to stay safe abroad if you are going to a level 2 or 3 country. They also will outline exit and entry requirements. There are some new regulations coming out in January for some European and United Kingdom destinations, so please make sure that you check your country's entry-exit requirements. And then lastly, there are country-specific health and safety information that you can find on the CDC website and the U.S. Department of State. These are my quick tips in how to stay safe abroad. There are going to be a variety of situations that might not be safe, and there are ways to keep yourself safe if you find yourself in any of those situations. Petty theft is one of the most common incidents abroad, so make sure to not carry large amounts of cash. Be careful with your phone and other high-value items. If you're walking around a town or a city, be aware of your surroundings, have your phone not in your hand, but in your pocket or in a purse, safely secured. Look up where you're going before you go so you're not reliant on GPS. Do not drink in excess or accept drinks from strangers. Look out for one another when in environments where somebody could potentially put something in your drink. Activism is a really wonderful thing, and global activism and global engagement is really important and something we hope that you learn about when you're abroad. However, we discourage you from engaging in public demonstrations. Local laws are very different in terms of public demonstrations and free speech. So please avoid public demonstrations because they could quickly turn from safe to potentially violent or out of control. And if you are arrested in these scenarios, there's again little we can do if you break a local law. Never walk home alone or accept a ride from a stranger. You really shouldn't be in vehicles with any new acquaintances or colleagues or friends or peers. So please also be mindful of that. Automobile accidents are the most common, the second most common incidents that occur abroad. A lot of times local traffic laws are different than they are in the US or different states in the US. Oftentimes, cars do not yield to pedestrians, or the streets are quite narrow and you are walking in the actual street and have to jump to the side if a car is coming, and they will not stop for you. So please be aware of your surroundings in terms of traffic patterns. Walk with a purpose and be aware of the traffic patterns. And if you are all traveling to some of the beautiful beaches that are in many of your countries that you'll be studying in, please make sure that you only swim if there's a lifeguard present, and that you obey all posted warning or guidance before entering any body of water that you might want to swim in. Accommodation request. It is your responsibility to contact the SAC and complete their accommodation request form. The Student Accessibility Center registration form is linked here for you to access at a later point. It's also linked in your Go Global portal. There's a question that asks if you will be requesting accessibility accommodations, and that will send an email to the Student Accessibility Center as well as to you to remind you to register your accommodations with them. If you have accommodations already on campus at Loyola, you still need to register again to go abroad because they're very different contexts. The Student Accessibility Center will assign you an advisor or a case manager that will put together an accommodation plan for you while abroad. There is no guarantee that your accommodation plan will be able to be implemented. It is purely a recommendation to be shared with your on-site staff and faculty. And we, as a study abroad advising team and study abroad office, will do what we can to advocate with the on-site partner for your accommodations to be put in place. The sooner you do this, the more likely accommodations can be arranged for you in country. This includes many students think that this just includes accommodations that are needed in the classroom. It also includes accommodations that might be needed in experiential excursions, any sort of site visit you're doing when you're in country, housing arrangements, dietary restrictions that might be needed as part of the meal plan you might have opted into, religious accommodations as well. So please make sure that you register. There will be a medical history self-disclosure form in your Go Global portal. This is voluntary. This is meant for only in the case of an emergency or to support you with having the necessary connections to physicians or mental health providers in country that you might need. So please feel free to share anything that is relevant to the on-site staff or to your faculty leaders in that medical history form. It will only be shared on a need-to-know basis. Emergency resources and procedures. When you get on site, you're going to have an on-site orientation where they're going to give you additional phone numbers to have on hand in the event of an emergency. These are going to be some that you should already have in your phone before leaving. Research what the local equivalent of 911 is. When you get on site, enter in all the on-site staff contacts that you'll need to contact in the event of an emergency or a semi-emergency. We have the Loyola emergency phone number, which is the same one that you're used to calling here on campus. If you call that number from abroad, it will route to me, and I will do my best to coordinate anything you might need between the US and your on-site staff. And then on your CISI insurance card, which we'll provide more detail on momentarily, there is a phone number number that you can call in the event of emergency and be immediately connected to someone that will be able to connect you with emergency services, a mental health provider, telehealth, or in-country lookup for a physician specific to what you might need, given that crisis that you could be in at that moment. If you have a minor illness or a minor injury, your first point of contact should be the on-site staff. There's little the study abroad office can do if you have some minor ailment, such as pink eye, or you twist your ankle or something like that. You're going to want to make sure that you have your on-site staff there to support you. If you don't want to contact the on-site staff and you want to navigate it yourself, that is completely understandable. You can use the CISI network that you can look up both in the phone mobile application or in your My CISI portal, and look up a provider for your specific need. There are both preferred and non-preferred providers. A preferred provider means that billing is directly set up between our CISI insurance and that particular medical provider, and so you will not have to pay out of pocket. If it's a non-preferred provider, you would have to pay out of pocket, and then you would get reimbursed from CISI. One thing to note is that medical care is much less expensive than the US is out of pocket. So if you do need to see a provider out of pocket, it will likely not be as exorbitant as medical costs are in the US without insurance. Be prepared that you might have to pay for services at the time of treatment. CISI has a network of both specialized care and general providers as well. If you do have a major illness, seek help without delay. Contact your on-site staff emergency phone and call the AXA emergency phone number, because they'll get you connected to someone way quicker than you will have time to look up in an application or on the website. When it's appropriate and when you have the time and things have stabilized a bit, please let us know what you're going through and the incidents so that we can support as best as we can. And please ask that someone on site notify your emergency contact. A lot of times parents and loved ones want to know that you're doing well, but the on-site staff is going to need your verification to allow them to notify the emergency contact. And now I'm going to turn over to Alana Carroll, Study Abroad Coordinator, who can support you in finding all the information you need to know about your insurance and filing claims.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about some registration and applications. These apps and registrations are mandatory. They are requirements that are listed in your Go Global application. We wanted to highlight and provide some additional information. And so it's important because they can keep you safe while you are traveling and alert you to incidents or events that may affect you. So first is the Alert Traveler app. This app is a safety app which is connected with our Go Global system, and it is tied to your itinerary record. And so it's tied to your dates and to your location. It's important to download and activate this app so that our office may do push notifications should there be an incident in your area, and we can do check-ins and vice versa. In addition to that, the second one is the STEP registration. This is with the United States Department of State. You will register your travel so that the government can provide you with the alerts about safety conditions in your destination country. And then the third one is the CISI app, and this is connected to the international health insurance policy that you all will be enrolled in. This app allows you to do multiple things, such as access your CISI cards, find providers, add your additional travel plans so that you can get any safety alerts or warnings. So with the Alert Traveler, this app, as I mentioned, is a safety app, and so it's connected to your Go Global system, and it's tied to your itinerary records and the dates and locations. It provides you with those alerts about events that may affect you, And it allows our office, as I said, to do check-ins with you. It's important to have this downloaded so that we can do those push notifications. You have the ability with this particular app to turn on geolocation services. If you are traveling elsewhere outside of your itinerary record and you opt in for those geolocations, it will follow you wherever you go. And so, again, it will provide you and our office any alerts based on where you're at if there's an incident that occurs. We recommend that you opt into, it'll have a lot of different notifications that you can opt into, but we recommend that you opt into the most critical notifications. That way you're aware if something major goes on. And then other notifications can be adjusted based on what you want to be notified of. This is an important tool that we are, we're wanting to take the time and explain a little further about this, even though you do have the information in your Go Global application. If you move on, we have the QR codes. Oh, go back one more slide. Thanks, Bobby. These are the QR codes to download the Alert Traveler app. So if you have an iOS device, you would utilize this QR code to do the download. Or if you have an Android device, you would use the other QR code to download that app. Thank you. So once you do that download, you want to access your Go Global application from your mobile device. And so from your application, you would look for the material entitled Alert Traveler Outgoing Material. You'll see, we did a little screenshot there. And so you'll see that there are actually 3 different hyperlinks. One is a video that tells you a little bit more about Alert Traveler, which is helpful. The second one is giving you instructions. Again, it's a video providing you with instructions on how to download and activate the Alert Traveler. And then the third one is the one that I want you, when you're ready, you're going to click on that. And so when you do that, if you move on to the next slide, thanks, Bobby. When you do that, it will pull up this activation panel. This is what will pop up on your phone. And so with that activation panel, you're going to plug in your country and your cell number. And then you're going to check off the box to notify me by SMS if impacted by alerts. At the bottom, you will see a save and log into Alert Traveler button. Tap this and the app will just downloaded, will be launched and activated. So once you're in the app, again, as I mentioned before, you will be prompted for several permissions. And we want you, of course, to decide what you want, but we really want you to do the most critical. And so, again, you can adjust those as needed. Okay, so moving on to the STEP, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. Again, this is with the U.S. Department of State. This is a registration of your travel. And so this is important so that the government can provide you with alerts about safety conditions in your destination countries. The registration is so that the U.S. government knows where their citizens are in the event of an emergency. So when you're doing this registration, be prepared to answer some questions about your travel itinerary, where you're going and the dates. You're also going to need your passport number when you do the registration. And the overall amount of time needed to complete this is about 20 minutes. Move on to the next slide. Thank you. So the next slide is about the CISI Traveler app. This, again, is a health insurance app, and it is linked to your itinerary record for your program. And so this app is very handy because it's right on your phone. And so when you are in a medical emergency situation or traveling, walking around in your country, you need to access some information about your insurance, it's right there. So that's why we encourage you to download that. It can provide you the documents. It can provide you easy access to your insurance card. It can provide you the search engines to locate a provider. As Marley had mentioned, there's different specialties with medical specialties. You're allowed to do those searches. You can find the preferred versus non-preferred. And then the medical emergency information, if you are looking to reach out to the team assist, you have that available as well. So if you plan to, one other thing that I always like to mention to students, that if you plan to travel beyond the end date of your program, you can go on to the CISI Traveler app and extend your CISI insurance for your personal travel. However, just be aware that that coverage is to be paid. It's at your expense. So be aware of that. So let's dig a little further into CISI. And so what I like to review in this section is what when students are going to be enrolled, what you as a student will receive, the tools and resources that are available to you through CISI. I like to always touch base a little bit about the claim submissions and the reimbursement process. And then lastly, how to reach CISI. So CISI insurance, the study abroad office will do the enrollment usually about 1 month prior to your departure. And so when we do that enrollment, a welcome package will be emailed to your LUC email account from enrollments@culturalinsurance.com. So that email will come directly from them. The subject line will say CISI materials, and I state that because sometimes students either miss this email, or they can go into this email can get routed to the spam or junk folder. So we always kind of provide you with some information like, have you looked in your email, your spam or junk? You know, type in CISI materials, see if something comes up. Again, if you don't see it and it's a month prior to your departure, reach out to your study abroad advisor, and we would be more than happy to send the material once again to you through CISI. So the welcome package, what's included in that? So when you receive that email, you are going to have various directions, instructions, and links and attachments. One of the attachments is going to be the participant ID card, and I'll show you shortly what that will look like. In addition to that, you'll get a link to or an attachment to the brochure itself. I've also put a QR code here if you would like to look at that policy ahead of time before you get the welcome package. You certainly can scan that QR code and take a look at that policy. Also, you'll receive a consulate letter, so a claim form, and then links and instructions on how to not only download the CISI Traveler app and also how to log into the My CISI participant portal is what you would use on a computer. So they'll give instructions for that as well. So this is what your card, the electronic CISI card, looks like. So this is what you'll receive in that welcome package. Please be mindful, this is just a sample. So the policy number is going to actually be 24, and then it will have your participant ID card, your ID number, your name, your coverage dates. What I like to point out is on the right-hand side for emergencies. This is the AXA assist that Marley had mentioned earlier. So when you're in that situation, if you have the app on your phone, you can go through that to look for the phone number, or if you are just trying to remember quickly and you know it's on the card, you can look on the back of that card and see the numbers there to call them, and they can assist you and walk you through your situation. This is a great visual. It shows you what that My CISI participant portal looks like. Again, it gives you essentially all the same features as what's on your app. So you can access those documents such as the ID, the consulate letter, the policy brochures. You can do that provider search where you can look for worldwide, depending upon the city and the country, specialty, preferred, non-preferred. You can go in there and do the search as well. The contact information for CISI, the claim information forms, what you need to fill out and submit. And then information for your travel destination, if it's a particular country, as we were talking about those, the equivalents to 911, you can proactively look in here to find out what that number is for the country that you're going. So that has lots of helpful information on the portal as well. And then I always like to provide, here's a QR code to the CISI claim form in advance. I think it's helpful to, perhaps scan that and just take a look at that form just in case you are in a situation, whether it's an emergency or not an emergency, minor or major, just so you are aware of what you will need to fill out to get reimbursement should that be a non-preferred provider. So you have an idea of what's coming your way as far as the claim form itself. And then this is just kind of a summary of what I mentioned, excuse me, and phone numbers on how to get a hold of CISI, email, and their physical mailing address as well. Thank you.
Hi all, Bobby here again. We're going to transition now to going over some specific academic and course registration information. There is some information in this part of the presentation that's more specific for faculty-led students, and then there's going to be some information that's more relevant for students who are not doing a faculty-led program. And so I'll do my best to let you know when it's relevant for faculty-led and when it's relevant for non-faculty-led students. The first thing we'll be discussing is the course approval process. This information is specific for students going on a non-faculty-led program. So the course approval process, if any student that's going on a non-faculty-led program hopes to obtain credit abroad for their major, minor, core, or engaged learning credits, you need to go through the course approval process. If you do not submit your courses for approval, they will automatically transfer back as general elective credits. Just to clarify what general elective credits are, they go towards the 120 credit hour requirement set by Loyola to graduate. So when you add together all the credits for your major, your minor, core, and engaged learning, there's some students that are way over 120 and don't need general elective credits. There's some students that are under and they need to take general elective credits to get to that 120 requirement. If you're not sure if you need general elective credits or not, confirm with your advisor. If you guys have questions about the course approval process or you want to actually submit your courses for approval, log into your Go Global application and click on the tab called Course Approvals. When you do so, you'll see instructions here on how to submit. This will also be where you actually submit those courses for approval. If you guys see on the screen, I have 3 videos that are highlighted in yellow. If you guys have questions about submitting, these video tutorials are a really good resource for you. If you watch them, it'll just walk you through exactly what you need to get your courses submitted for approval. As a reminder, course approvals are specific for non-faculty-led students, and you need to do them for major, minor, core, or engaged learning credit. And then as another reminder, if you do not get your courses approved, they will transfer back as general elective credits. I highly recommend that you submit your courses for approval before your registration for your study abroad program. They're not due until before you depart, but we recommend doing them before registration. That way you know what to register for and you know what they'll transfer back as. So really important to keep that in mind. And then if you guys end up, getting to your program and not liking one of your courses, you are able to submit courses once you are abroad, but we just recommend doing them before you depart. I always tell students as well, please do your best to only submit 6 to 10 courses for approval. This should give you enough backup options just in case you end up not liking one of the courses that you take or you end up not taking it for whatever reason. Having backup courses already approved is ideal because then you won't need to contact, the course approvers, your academic advisor again. You'll already know what the backup courses will transfer back as once you're back on campus at Loyola Chicago. Now we're going to talk a little bit about grades and pass, no pass. And so this information is specific for all students who are going abroad. So whether you're doing a faculty-led or a non-faculty-led program. If you hope to take a class as pass, no pass, you do need to submit a request form that's located inside of Locus. If you guys fail to submit a request form, your courses abroad will automatically transfer back as letter grades. So just want to make sure I mention that. The pass, no pass request form is actually inside of Locus. So you'll log in, you'll click on online forms and help, and then you'll click on the pass, no pass undergraduate request form. On the next slide here, I actually have a picture of what it looks like. And so this is what the pass, no pass request form will look like. If you are going during the summer, you have to submit this form within the first week of your program beginning. If you are going on a fall program or an academic year program, you need to submit it within the first 2 weeks of your program. Pass, no pass is only permitted for general elective courses, and it's also only permitted for junior standing and above. And so if you're a junior or a senior and you're taking the course abroad for general elective credit, you may be able to take it as pass, no pass. If you guys have questions about filling out the form, please work with your academic advisor. Your academic advisor is actually the person that kind of liaisons that process. Transitioning now to talk a little bit about credits. So not for credit study abroad is actually not permitted. And so all the credits that you take abroad will transfer back to Loyola for credit as well. And then your locus record will reflect exactly as your transcript reflects. And so when we receive your transcript from your program abroad, we will use the credit determined by that university, and that will be what's reflected on your transcript here at Loyola Chicago. So talking a little bit further about transcripts. When your grades are finalized from your program, you will need to request that your transcripts are sent to our office. I've included the address below here with the attention of Jack O'Halloran, who's one of the study abroad office administrators. We also will receive your transcript via secure transfer as long as it's sent to SAO transcripts at luc.edu. It's very important that once your grades are finalized that you guys do this. Because this is essentially what's going to allow the classes that you took abroad and the credits that you obtained abroad to count for credit here at Loyola Chicago. If you guys want detailed instructions on what this process looks like, you can check this out inside of your Go Global application. There is an item that's called Request Your Transcript Gets Sent to the Study Abroad Office. You can view all the instructions there. Transcripts, like this process specifically, is for students who are doing a non-faculty led program. So just want to make sure I mention that as well. It can take 1 to 3 months for transcripts to be processed. And so if you have any questions, just contact us at SAO transcripts at luc.edu. But again, you do this once your grades have been finalized. And then we'll email you once we receive your transcript and once it's been processed. And then you can work with your academic advisor to ensure it gets articulated correctly. And then just want to finalize and remind you all one more time that the credit and grades that you receive will be reflected to Locus exactly as they appear on your transcript. Registration and billing. If you are doing a faculty-led program, you already have been enrolled in your study abroad course. You are not able to register with another Loyola course during the time in which you are participating in the study abroad program. All programs for faculty-led, except for English 287, will be billed on the April 15th e-bill. If you're doing the English 287 faculty-led program, that will be billed specifically on the June 15th e-bill. And then, as a reminder, insurance costs are included in your program fee. And so you don't need to pay anything extra for insurance if you're doing a faculty-led program. For everyone else, make sure you're not registering for on-campus classes at Loyola during the time in which you're studying abroad. Before July 1st, you need to take one of the post-decision requirements indicating how many credits you intend to take abroad. And then just as a reminder, for students who are doing fall programs or academic year programs, you do need to be enrolled full-time each semester, which is a minimum of 12 US credits. On July 1st, our office, the Study Abroad office, is going to enroll you in a Study Abroad Indicator course. It's called INDS 300X Foreign Study. And this is basically what keeps you enrolled as a full-time student, even though you're not on campus at Loyola Chicago. In order for us to register you in this foreign study abroad holder, you need to have all of the holds and removed from your account. So please make sure you do this before July 1st for all fall or academic year students, because if not, we're not able to indicate that you will be studying abroad. And then you're going to be enrolled in this indicator course during the whole time in which you're abroad. And then the indicator credits aren't necessarily a reflection of how many credits you'll receive for the program. It's just allowing you to stay enrolled full-time at Loyola Chicago while you're actually abroad. If you are a MAP grant recipient, the courses that you indicate in your study abroad application that needs to be the exact amount of credits that you're actually taking abroad. So if there's any changes, please let us know so that we can manually update your account to reflect the correct amount of credits that you're taking abroad. It's very important that you do this. So if you're a MAP grant recipient, please make sure you pay attention to that. Some academic considerations for study abroad. Again, if you're a semester or an academic year student, you need to be enrolled at least full-time each semester, which is the equivalent of 12 US credits. If you fail to be enrolled full-time, so if you're under 12 credits, this can have ramifications on your financial aid, on your scholarships, your academic plan, etc. So please don't let this happen. If you're doing an exchange program, the credits that you see abroad or the grades that you see abroad are likely going to look different than what you're used to here on campus. We have a foreign university credit and grade conversion linked in this presentation. This is also a part of the academic policies that you can review as well in your study abroad application. Make sure you understand that. And then if you have questions, you can reach out to your study abroad advisor. If you're going to Universidad Pontificias Comillas in Madrid, and you have questions about the grade conversion, you also can do that in the academics tab on the program brochure for Comillas, or just shoot me an email, and I'm happy to provide you with that information. Another piece of information that I'd like to give you is regarding final exams. Make sure you're talking to your support staff that's on campus to understand when are the resit exam period dates. Resit exams are oftentimes like if you end up failing a class or you fail the final, they offer resit exams where you can take the final exam again. So find out when those are because they're not always advertised on the semester schedule. So just make sure you understand that. Something I also like to tell students is you are a student. I know studying abroad seems like, wow, I'm in a new place, I get to travel. Don't forget you are a student and you likely will feel differences in academics abroad with the courses that you would normally take here at Loyola Chicago. Some examples of this is oftentimes your final grades might be based on like 1 or 2 exams. There might not be like participation and attendance points, things of that nature. In addition, oftentimes there might not be office hours, no curves in your classes or extra credit. And these are just things that we want to make sure that you're aware of. There's also some countries that are known for the academic rigor of the courses. So like the Netherlands are kind of notorious for this, Japan, and then many business programs such as Universidad Comillas. So just be expected to study more or the same amount that you do when you're here on campus at Loyola Chicago. If you guys have questions about academic policies and procedures, please reach out to your study abroad advisor, and you also can view them in your Go Global application. And then please make sure you're working with your on-site support staff to identify if there's any specific academic resources that are available for you. We're going to talk a little bit now about payments for your study abroad program. If you look at on the very top line here, we have CISI insurance. And so if you are going on a non-faculty led program and you are going during the fall or academic year, this is $300 per semester, and it's billed directly to your locus account. If you're doing a summer program, it's $200, and it's also billed right to your locus account. As a reminder for faculty-led programs, the insurance is included in your program fee, so you don't need to worry about this. If you're doing an affiliate program, there is a study abroad administrative fee. And for anyone doing a fall program or academic year program, this is $1,000. And for summer, it's $500. And this is also billed right to your locus account. For affiliate programs, tuition, room and board, the amount actually varies, and you pay that directly to your affiliate partner. So if you have questions, talk to your affiliate advisor specifically. Regarding the SAO admin fee for exchanges, for faculty-leds, or for Fordham, SLU Madrid, or Marquette University, this is $200 and charged directly to your locus account as well. If you are doing an exchange program or a faculty-led or SLU Madrid, Fordham, or Marquette University, the tuition, room, board, and other fees can be dependent on the program. If you have questions, just reach out to your study abroad advisor about this. And then the payment will be billed specifically to your locus account. So just keep that in mind. And then finally, program fees for anyone doing a faculty-led program. The amount does vary by program, but it is billed directly to your locus account. And so if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to your study abroad advisor. So we are nearing the end of the presentation. So just some final preparation tips and just overall tips for your program. We highly recommend with regards to money, taking money out in the local currency before your departure. We recommend this because one, the conversion rate that you'll get here in the States is probably better than the conversion rate that you'll get abroad. But we also want to make sure once you get abroad, if you need something immediately, you have, funds in order to do so. We also recommend contacting your bank or credit card companies to make them aware of your travel plans. We don't want anyone's cards to get frozen once they arrive abroad, so let your bank and credit card companies know. We also recommend doing an inventory check of what's inside your wallet, just in case you were to lose something. You'll know exactly what you need to reapply for once you're back on campus. In addition, we highly recommend having multiple ways to access your funds. Imagine that you only bring a debit card with you when you're abroad and then you lose that debit card. You might not be able to access your funds for a while. So we highly recommend having multiple ways to access your funds. In addition, the app Venmo is likely not used by locals, and so just plan accordingly if you're getting to know locals when you're abroad. And then please don't carry all of your cards and cash in your wallet at once. If you lose your wallet, we don't want you to lose everything. Instead, if you only have, cash with you, then you'll only lose that cash, for example. If you guys have any questions about currency converters, or just comparing the cost of living when you're abroad, we've linked some websites here. Feel free to check those out to get an estimate cost of living in the country where you will be visiting. When it comes to communication, please call your loved ones when you arrive. I'm sure they'll be worried about you and they'll love to hear from you once you arrive to your destination abroad. While you are abroad, you are required to have cell phone service. There's usually 3 ways that students go about this. The first way would be unlocking your phone and then purchasing a local SIM card once you arrive. If you have questions about this, you can just talk to your phone provider here in the States. The second option is to have an international plan with your current provider here in the States. You could work with them directly on costs and how to go about that process. The final one is to explore getting an eSIM on your phone, but it must include calling, and we've linked some examples here, so Nomad, Olafly, and some others as well. When you're abroad, many countries don't use SMS or texting. They might use WhatsApp, WeChat, iMessage, Skype, or Google Voice. We just want to make sure we get that on your radar. And then please make sure you're being careful about roaming data charges when you are abroad. We don't want anyone to experience abnormally high costs on roaming when they're abroad. When it comes to documents, please make important copies of all your documents and keep copies on your phone if you ever needed to access them. These documents include valid passport, visas, driver's license, credit, debit cards, insurance card, medical information, and then the student accommodation letters as well. Some information about what to bring in your carry-on versus also what to have in as a personal item. So anything that you absolutely are not willing to lose, please have in your carry-on or your personal item. This includes wallets, IDs, your airline ticket, important documents, cell phones, charging cords, headphones. We also recommend having in your carry-on or personal item an extra change of clothes. Just in case your checked bag gets lost, we want you to have an extra pair of clothes that you can rely on. And then any toiletries that you want to bring, also please bring in your carry-on or personal item. And then very important, prescriptions and medicine that you want to bring. Please make sure that's also in your carry-on or personal item, because if you were to lose that, it might be complicated to get those medications when you're abroad. So please make sure you're bringing those in your carry-on as well. Here we have just some general information about airports and just our tips. So if you guys have any questions about prohibited items, please check the TSA website. We also recommend purchasing TSA locks, which allow your bag to be locked, so random people are not able to open them except for the TSA. Please make sure you check it online before your flights. In addition, purchase checked bags ahead of time. It usually is cheaper than if you purchase them directly at the airport. For international flights, we recommend arriving 2 to 3 hours in advance. Don't leave your luggage unattended. That's very important. Wear easily removable shoes and comfy clothes because your flight might be long. We recommend bringing a reusable water bottle, and then what you can do is you can enter the airport with it empty, and then once you go through customs, you'll be able to then fill it up, which is really helpful. Wear layers so you're not taking up too much room in your luggage. Have your boarding pass and passport readily available. Stay close to your gate so you know when and where you have to board. Feel free to sleep on the plane. It makes the journey a little bit easier. And then I always say I recommend purchasing a portable charger, and you can get these on Amazon just in case the charging cords are broken on the flight. It's helpful to just have a portable charger of your own. And so I'd recommend this as well. Just some other tips, make sure you have the correct charging outlet. And so not all countries use the same charging outlets as the States. So just research what the charging outlets look like in the country you're going to, and then you can purchase them ahead of time. Amazon sells them and they're really cheap there. When it comes to clothing, please make sure you check the local climate. This is just a funny example, but we had a student previously go to Argentina during the summer semester, but our summer in Argentina is their winter, and so she did not pack the right clothes. And so make sure you're researching the local climate. Also, do not overpack. You likely are going to want to purchase clothes abroad, and they probably will be cheaper depending on where you go. You might not need to bring bedding, so contact your on-site support staff to determine if you need bedding. For food, please do your best to be open to new foods when you're abroad. This is a really cool chance to try new things. I also say understand dietary allergies versus preferences, and then know how to advocate yourself and your allergies in another language. This is very important. Imagine you're going to a Spanish-speaking country and you have a nut allergy. You want to make sure that you know how to advocate that you have a nut allergy for when you eat out. So sometimes students might write this on a little card that they can give to like the waiter or waitress. Or sometimes it just means memorizing how to like advocate for yourself. So just make sure you pay attention to that. We also recommend researching how to get around to where you're going. And so if you're going to Madrid, what does the public transit, system look like? If you're going to London, what does it look like there? So research this ahead of time. And then please upload a copy of your student visa in your Go Global portal if you have one. Next steps, before you depart, make sure you review the post-decision requirements in your portal, visit your doctor to talk prescriptions and on-site treatment, complete the course approval process if you hope to obtain major, minor, core, or engaged learning credit, make copies of important documents, read all the pre-departure orientation materials, and make sure you enroll in those 3 programs that Alana informed you all of, which include the STEP program, Alert Traveler, and the CISI app. Please complete this assessment as well. This will allow us to know which information to cut from pre-departure and which information to add. But that does conclude our presentation. It was such a pleasure talking to you all. Safe travels to you, and please reach out to the Study Abroad office if you have any other questions. Thank you so much.